Today we're going to be ranking every live-action Batsuit starting with the 1943 serial. This was the very first live-action portrayal of the Dark Knight. While it was the first ever attempt at creating anything Batman related outside of the comics, it suffered from a low budget along with some inaccurate depictions of the character. For example, Batman uses some type of ray gun, and although he did use a gun in the comics, by this time it was already written that he would stop killing. That being said, parts of me wants to give this costume some slack for being the first of its kind and also not having the funding to create a better version of what we got to see. However, it's just not a good costume. Maybe it was for the 1940s, but I still feel like it could have been better if given the right budget. I'm gonna give this one a D. Moving on to the 1949 serial. This Batsuit somehow manages to be even worse than its predecessor. The ears are pointing diagonally, the bat emblem is weirdly centered around his ribs instead of being at the center of his chest. I mean, look at this picture, it's not even symmetrical. The only thing I really like about this suit is how the emblem looks. If it was smaller and fit where it was supposed to be, it would have gave this suit a few more points. This one's getting an F, no question. Next up, we have the Batsuit from the 1966 TV show and movie. This one is the first one that actually looks like Batman. It perfectly encapsulates the art in the comics of that time. It shows the classic blue and gray color scheme, the vintage 60s bat symbol, as well as a cowl that comes with its own expressions and shading. I don't think we've ever gotten a blue and gray suit that has worked as well as this one. It is rare to have a superhero costume that is almost identical to its source material and also work the way that this one did. Is it the best suit ever? No, but it was the best looking suit of its time, and I truly believe that it has aged pretty well. I'm gonna give this one a B. Moving on to the first box office version of the Caped Crusader, we have the 1989 Batsuit. This movie really pushed Batman to new heights. The widespread success of this film created so many opportunities for DC, such as the animated series and the sequels, which I will get to in a bit. One thing that this film did really well was bring the overall grittiness of the 70s and 80s comics to life thanks to Tim Burton's art direction with his films. When it comes to the Batsuit, it just works so well with Burton's creative direction. The black on black just looks so slick, especially in scenes when there is a lot of heavy downlighting in dark settings. I truly believe this version of the Batsuit has stood the test of time, and every single suit that has followed has some form of inspiration that leads back to this one. The only thing that I believe prevents this one from being an S tier Batsuit is one, the cowl looks a bit bulky. As you can see, the mask sometimes creases at the openings, which makes it look a bit odd in certain scenes. And two, the emblem. It's not terrible, but I mean, the movie poster is literally an emblem. I don't know why they didn't just use that and instead made it more pointy than it needed to be. I give this one a strong A. We now move on to the sequel, Batman Returns. I think this suit builds off of its predecessor and fine-tunes the flaws pretty well. The thing that I admire about it the most is that it was the first Batsuit that looks like a functional suit. It looked like it could actually be used if Batman was real. The suit was less rubbery and looked more like actual armor. The ab plating and the breastplate looks like it can actually take a bullet or two. And they also fixed the bat emblem this time. The cowl looks more sleek, and I really do admire the contouring of the temple and eyebrow areas. Let's also not forget, they had this man wearing Jordan 6s. Batman was literally stomping goons out in J's. This suit was great, and I really wish we had more of the Burton films. This one's going in the S tier for sure. Next up, we have our first movie with multiple designs, and that is Batman Forever. We'll start with the main suit, also known as the Panther suit. Say what you want about this movie, I will die on this hill. This is a top 5, if not top 3 Batsuit of all time. Yes, I know it has the bat nipples, but yes or no, if it didn't have them, people would be saying this is the greatest suit ever. even then, I don't get why fans make such a big deal about it since you can barely see him in the movie anyways. I love the colors on the suit. It takes the rubbery look from the Burton films and makes it into a shiny, almost metallic or satin looking costume. The color of the emblem and the belt are also a great choice, as it goes away from that super bright yellow into a more neutral gold looking color. Also, look at that cowl. It truly is one of the most slept on versions of the Batsuit. It's a shame that it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. Another S tier. Now we have the Batman Forever sonar suit. This suit was used after the Riddler destroyed the Batcave. Realistically, it was one of those suits that was created to sell merchandise, more specifically with toys and action figures alike. That being said, I really don't think this suit is as bad as they say it is. I think the consensus around this movie is that it wasn't good, therefore nothing is good. When in fact, there are so many good things about this movie other than the plot. This includes the suits, the Batmobile, let's not forget about the soundtrack and how good the main theme was. I will say, this suit isn't as good as the Panther suit, but it's still a pretty decent suit. I don't like how shiny this suit is, but it can definitely pass as a main suit if it wanted to. I like how the emblem is embedded into the armor and not its separate thing, and the batnips are also gone. It fits the aesthetic of the film and is also one of those underrated versions of the suit. I'm gonna give it a B. We move on to the infamous 1997 film, Batman and Robin. This movie was just shit all around. I don't know what it is about this suit, but it just looks off. Which is ironic because it looks pretty similar to the design of the Panther suit. It just looks like a downgraded version of its predecessor in almost every way. We get the batnips again, and on this one, I really do understand the sentiment towards the hate. I think George Clooney also has a much more blocky looking head compared to Val Kilmer, rest in peace. So the cowl just fits super weird. Speaking of the cowl, it just looks so goofy. Like, it looks like they made every part of it comically large and cartoon-like. Clooney's chin is literally bulging out of the suit and it looks super tight on him. The biggest problem I have with this suit is that in some shots, it legit looks purple. Like, some of the scenes with Mr. Freeze, the Batsuit looks like a damn eggplant. I'm giving this one a D. It's not as bad as it could be, but it's still not a good Batsuit by any means. Next, we have the ice suit. This is hands down the most Power Rangers looking shit I have ever seen. This is one of those things where it's so bad, it almost starts looking good if you look at it long enough. But then you wake up from your delusion and you realize how bad it is again. This one was another one of those toy line specials, but it just looks so campy from something that was made 3 years before the 2000s. All the while, we were getting some of the most dark, adult-oriented versions of Batman in other media. Hell, even the animated series was less cartoony than this. This one's going in the F tier. We now move into the good times again with Batman Begins. After over a decade of misses when it came to the big screen, Warner Bros. And DC decided to take a different approach with their latest movie. Led by Christopher Nolan, the Batman franchise would take on a darker, grounded, more realistic take of Gotham and its fellow residents. Nolan's direction successfully captured that, especially with this version of the Batsuit. No more tacky alternate versions to sell merch. This suit goes back to the idea of a Batsuit that could be deemed usable in real life. This suit takes on a very tactical look, as in the film it's described as a rejected army prototype that Bruce just spray paints and slaps his logo on. I really like this suit, and I believe it worked really well with Christian Bale's frame, as he bulked up to nearly 200 pounds to get the part after being a complete skeleton in his previous film. This suit also fits well with the timing of the story, as it takes place during the early years of the Dark Knight's journey. I like the ruggedness of the suit, and it also makes for a really menacing and imposing figure in every scene. This is the first suit you can really look at and understand why the thugs in the movie fear Batman. I mean, look at the cape when it droops down. Look at how it appears when it's opened. I mean, that looks scary as hell, especially in the middle of the night. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that this suit definitely had the most inspiration towards the suit that we got in the Arkham games. It has a perfect balance of practicality and comic book accuracy. The only real flaw of this suit is that the cowl is noticeably sticking out as its own separate part instead of being a cohesive thing with the cape and the suit, as well as the fact that the design department still could not find a way to move Batman's head without having to move the rest of his body like a robot. I'm going with another strong A on this one. We now move on to the Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises suits. I believe that these are the same suits. I've looked over them and really couldn't find any differences. In the movies, they say that Bruce retires in between the second and third movie, so it would make sense that he stopped upgrading his suit. That being said, this is one of those suits that polarizes the fan base. Some really like this suit, some think that this suit is terrible as it takes the realism aspect too far. I personally believe while this suit does its job and it doesn't feel too out of place, it does come off a bit over the top with its design. Although we now have a suit that can move better, it just feels like an overstimulated version of the Batman Begins suit. I wouldn't even call it a downgrade, just an unnecessary amount of lines and plates that makes it look like a cosplay at times. I also think that this suit makes Batman look skinny, which isn't bad, but when you look at how imposing he is in the first movie, it just gives you a feeling like, oh, okay, I guess it'll do. It's not a bad suit at all. It just could have been better in my opinion. I'm giving this one a B. We now move on to Batman v Superman. We start off with the main suit. Now again, say what you want about this movie, they did a good job with costume designs. We get a much more bulkier version of the Bat in this film, which takes a lot of inspiration from Frank Miller's version in The Dark Knight Returns. I personally love how they use gray and black instead of just having one color. The Bat symbol fits really well as it is a much more broad and imposing version of Batman. This is one of those suits that just works. No extra plating, no weird design changes, just comic book accuracy at its finest. The only flaw you could argue with this is the tights being missing, as it does make it look a bit weird. Same thing with the Superman costume. I think they could have added something other than just throwing on some underwear, like some type of pant design, but it isn't that big of a deal. Going with an A on this one. We move on to the armored suit in the same movie. As much as I dislike it when they create random alternate suits, this one is sick. It does a great job in paying homage to the Dark Knight Returns armor. I mean, this thing is like if you took a tank and just merged it in with Batman. It has some cool features such as the eyes being replaced with light, giving it almost an Iron Man look to it. I really like the aesthetic of it. I really wish it was implemented a little bit more than it was. I'm giving this one an A. Definitely the best alternate suit that we have gotten so far. Next up, we have the Justice League suit. It's basically just a darker, more armored version of the Batman v Superman suit. I don't really see anything better or worse than the first suit. It stays pretty consistent with its predecessor. I really like the gloves on this new one. It reminds me of the heavy bracers you see in the Arkham games. Gonna give this one an A. It looks pretty good. Next, we have what might be the most unappreciated Batsuit of all time, the tactical suit from the Justice League movie. I know I mentioned the Arkham games a lot, but I'll say it again. This suit reminds me of an Arkham suit. This suit is just so sick. And to me, it also reminds me of Iron Man with the transition of the Mark 1 armor to the Mark 2 armor. Now, I do get the sentiment of the goggles being a dumb decision, and I totally agree. I think if they just used the glowing eyes in the original armored suit, it would have been perfect. For that, I will give it an A. I feel like a lot of these have been near S tiers, but just missed the mark by a little bit. Speaking of missing the mark, next up we have the Gotham suit. This suit is a legit act of terrorism. I mean, what is this? Thank God it was only on screen for like 10 seconds because this is straight up garbage. This is what they meant by hockey pads in The Dark Knight. They legit cut 6 slices of pizza and used it as an ab plate. I guess it was supposed to be a very early version of the suit, but I still can't forgive this. This one's going in the F tier. Moving on, we have the Justice League Nightmare suit. This one also appeared in Batman v Superman for a bit, but was used more in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I can see why people like this version, but I'll be honest, I'm not a fan. I just don't see a reason why in an apocalypse there would be any need to completely alter the outfit. It would be better to just have the armored suit at that point. It's a really weird and unnecessary change in my opinion. It isn't bad, it's just unnecessary. I'm gonna give it a C. Moving on, we have the Batman. This is what happens when you recreate the suit to have a modern spin while also not compromising too much of the original source material. This is by far one of the best Batsuit designs of all time. Everything has a unique taste to it, but it doesn't feel that they took it too far. The leather cowl looks great and fixes one of the biggest problems by giving it a bigger opening that stretches all the way back to the jawline. The collar of the cape allows it to hide the flaws of the previous design and making it look like a much more cohesive outfit. It has an armored and tactical look, but it doesn't go overboard like some of the earlier entries. There really was no part of this suit wasted in terms of functionality, from the wingsuit cape to the tourniquet to the bracers, and my personal favorite, the usable symbol. This one definitely deserves a spot on the S tier. Next up, we have the Ben Affleck suit in The Flash. This shit is straight ass. I wish it worked because this could have been the first time in a while where we could have had a memorable blue and gray costume, but it just adds these ugly pieces of armor that have no use whatsoever. This is just disgusting to look at. Like, I genuinely think a child could have made a better design than this. Also, why is the cowl so ugly? It makes him look like the shark in Nemo. The nose just looks super fat and it's like an old person in the costume. This is going in the F tier. Lastly, we have the Keaton Batsuit from the Flash movie. Now, this one did its job unlike the terrible design we just went over. It gives off a retro look while also adding a few fine details of its own. I do like how the cowl looks a bit more menacing with its accents and crease lines. I also love the use of silver instead of gold when it comes to the belt. It would have even been cool to see the silver on the emblem, but then again, maybe the fans wouldn't have liked that change. One thing I don't like about it, however, is the separation of the breastplate. It looks a bit off, and I don't know what the practicality of that would be, but I would assume that it would be a huge weak point when it comes to enemies targeting you. I don't know, maybe I'm going too deep into it. Is it as good as the other Keaton suits for me? No. Is it a bad suit by any means? No, not at all. I'm gonna give this one a strong B. Could even be a weak A, but I think a strong B is good where it stands. There you go. That's my rankings. Comment down below what you think. Thank you and see you next time. Goodbye.